Hi, everyone. Welcome to Talks with Tony. I have my dear friend, the hitman, David Foster, Canadian musician, arranger, record producer, music executive, chaired a record company, Verve Records. I mean, his discography is unbelievable. He's an amazing man, foundation, great father, you name it. But most importantly, an amazing friend to me.
It's great to be with you, Tony, my dear friend.
Born and raised in Victoria, British Columbia. Tell people about Victoria and British Columbia.
I've commiserated or hung with many, many fellow Canadians in Los Angeles here and around the world. And we, maybe you as coming from Asia and specifically Malaysia, maybe you feel the same way. But when we Canadians get together, Wayne Gretzky and Paul Anka and it used to be Alan Thicke, my dear friend, and just us Canadians, we sort of felt like we had a secret weapon by being Canadian. There was a party that somebody held in Malibu before COVID, and it was Dan Aykroyd and Martin Short and Eugene Levy and all these heavyweight comedians, and they're all Canadian. And I was along for whatever reason, and it's this secret weapon we feel we have, maybe because we were taught that we had to work twice as hard to be taken half as seriously. And maybe you can relate to that, because America is the one that we all want to conquer, and certainly many Canadians have, and we've used, me in particular, I've used growing up on an island, Vancouver Island, as a weapon for me.
And you were one of 7 kids, the only boy. Spoiled rotten, were you?
I was, but of course it wasn't my fault. I mean, I tell this story often, and it's tragic now. And thankfully, all my sisters, my 6 sisters, they're crazy about me. I'm not going to lie. We all get along so well, and we just have the best time and never argue. But my mother, God rest her soul, man, she would get up in the morning and give my sisters a piece of toast, and she'd make me bacon and eggs. And I'm not kidding. Every morning, they got nothing, and I got everything. And I think it pissed my dad off too. But that was just the way it was. So I grew up entitled within a family that had no money. We weren't poor, but we had no money. But as entitled as you could be with a father making $90 a week.
You talk about your mom, and my mom was a major part of my life. She was a musician. I don't know if I ever told you that. She was a piano player. In the early days when people used to come out to Malaysia, she invited to just pick up the phone and say, "Come to our house, I'll organize a party for you." And one of the great people that came was Ray Charles. And till I die, I remember her jamming with Ray Charles on the same piano, and she was a major influence in my life. And I didn't realize until I got some notes on you, because we've known each other on a different time level, that your mother was such a big part of your life. At 4 you had perfect pitch, David.
Yeah,
I've never known anyone who's had perfect pitch actually at 4 years old.
Well, perfect pitch is an indication that you should go in the music business, but it's not like, oh, you got perfect pitch, you're going to do well. But it's an indication that you should try to do well. And the story goes that my mother was dusting the piano like this.
Yeah.
And she hit that note, and I yelled out from the other room, "That's an E." And of course, she didn't know music, but my father did. He was a really good amateur piano player. She called him at work, and she said, "Maury, you got to get home right away. There's something weird with your kid." And so my father actually came home and tested me out. And in fact, I had perfect pitch, which means to your listeners that I can tell what a note is without seeing it. But it doesn't mean I'm a genius. It just means that it's something I'm born with, like being born left-handed.
But how at 4 years old do you think you got that? I mean, that is remarkable.
But I think my father had sat me when I was 4 and taught me a little bit about the piano, like where the notes are.
What kind of music did he play at home?
Yeah, my father played a couple of different styles, but what he was really good at was, we call it stride piano, which is sort of like honky-tonk piano.
Oh, yeah.
So he taught me how to do this. This bar room.
Oh, yeah.
He taught me how to play that style. But then he also had a softer side where he taught me songs like Dream a Little Dream of Me.
Yeah.
He was quite accomplished as an amateur.
And your first song that you remember playing?
I don't remember my first song. I remember in the 5th grade, I had a music teacher who didn't like me and refused to give me an A. And I know I deserved an A because I was good.
Yeah.
And I said, "What do I have to do to get an A in your class?" And she said, "What you have to do is write a song and play it for the whole school." So my friend and I wrote a song called the Foswood Blues, so original, probably some bullshit, but we performed it in front of the whole school, which incidentally gained me a little popularity, which I'm not going to lie, was kind of cool. But she still gave me a B. And to this day, I don't know why. She's still alive. I should track her down and find out why, or if she even remembers.
You should. Piano was always going to be it for you. Did you ever... I've never asked you, do you play any other instruments? I've only ever seen you on the keyboards.
Well, under the heading of influencers in your life, I had a band teacher, and I say to any kids that happen to be watching you, any kids that decide they want to take band, but they don't want to do it because they don't think it's cool. I don't know, maybe band is cool now.
Yeah.
Band, for me, was a lifesaver. Did you take band?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly did.
And I had a band teacher, Tony, who recognized that I had talent, and he let me learn a different instrument every 3 months. Now, I didn't get good at any of the instruments, but I'd play the trumpet for 3 months, then the trombone, then the saxophone, then the clarinet and the flute, and I was never any good on them, but I was still as good or better than all the rest of the kids, even after just a couple of months of practicing. So I got to learn the instruments of the orchestra, which was invaluable. He gave me something invaluable over those 4 years that I went to high school, or 3 years actually. I didn't graduate, but that's another story.
If there was another instrument that you would love to be as accomplished as you are on the piano, what would it be?
It would be the guitar, because the guitar player gets to be out front and just do his thing. The keyboard player, they can't be out front. They're stuck in the back, and I'm kind of a ham. And also the guitar is sexy as hell.
Yeah.
And but it's a mystery to me. I know 4 chords, and that's it. I know you play a little guitar, right?
Yeah, I play a little guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, but
it's hard.
I know you can relate to this. You set the goalpost, and then you immediately go past the goalpost, and you have to reset it again. So when I was 12 or 13, I just, imagined that I would be having a job in a nightclub somewhere, and I would play every night of the week, and I'd make a living that way. And that's all I wanted. But then, because we have this thirst and this desire to do better and be best and be great, the goalpost kept moving. And by the time I was 19, 18, I wanted a hit record more than anything.
Wow. And can you remember the first record you bought?
I remember the first record that I was given. And my sister worked at a coffee shop, and there was a jukebox there. And every week or two, the guy would come and clean out the jukebox and give away the old records, because, the top 40 kept changing even back then.
Yeah.
And she brought home to me a 45 of a song called Everybody's Gonna Have a Good Time Up There by Pat Boone. Do you know who Pat Boone is?
Oh, Pat Boone, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was my very first record that I got to play on a little $5 record player. And I've since, of course, become friends with Pat over the years. And we've hung out, we've had dinners together. And he was a big, big star back then.
Yeah.
He was handsome and, had a lot of hit records. And he was acted in a lot of movies. And it was great to tell my sister as a full circle, hey, by the way, that first record you gave me that influenced me, Pat Boone, he's now a friend of mine. And I've told Pat the story, and Pat has told that story in concert when I bid at his concert. So it's kind of a full circle.
Well, that's kind of cool. I mean, my first record, I persuaded my dad to buy me the Supremes, the A-Go-Go. I was 5 years old at that time.
Wow.
My mother was a big influence. My dad was kind of, he bought all these Reader's Digest set. He was a big Burt Bacharach man and Ray Conniff Jr. and all that. My mother was into, Carole
R&B.
King and Dionne Warwick and all. She had a huge cross section, so I grew up in there. And in one of the evenings, I heard on the radio the Supremes, but I've never got a chance to meet Diana Ross or any of them. Have you?
Not yet.
Have
Yeah,
you?
I have.
Is she a
I've
diva, or is she
she's
nice?
great. She's great, and just actually recently she reached out to me during COVID to
Yeah.
ask about doing a song together, and we never got it together. And I did do an arrangement for her on one song years ago, and she's always been really nice to me. And you know, there's certain singers, Tony. You know this so well from being in the music business for so long. There's certain singers that love musicians and recognize good musicians from bad musicians. I believe that Diana Ross is one of them that recognizes good musicianship. There's singers out there that have hit records, great tours, they're doing well. They really don't know the difference. And I know this for a fact because one singer in particular who's I work with who is amazing, has a huge career. And he said, I want you to hear my band. I said, okay, great. You know, that's the band you want to take on the road. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, these guys are great. And they were awful. They were just terrible musicians, but he didn't know. And yet his own career is amazing. And he has great taste, but couldn't pick good musicians.
There
I
we
won't say
go.
who it is, though.
I kind of can guess.
No, you
but
can't
anyway,
guess.
going back, just the last question in your childhood. You said you had a perfect childhood. What does that mean?
It means I'm bullshitting, I think. Because my wife has busted me on that a couple of times, just from what she's heard from my sisters. And, you know, my father was working all the time and 7 kids and no money. And so he was quite distant with me. Not because he was mean, just because that's the way he was raised. And my mother was strict. So I guess it wasn't a perfect childhood, but it's the way I'm going to leave it. That's what I'm going to say. It was perfect because it felt perfect to me.
Chuck Berry, 1966. A backup band for Chuck Berry. What was that like?
You know, it was a classic sort of, I ain't going on until I see the money. I want the cash, that kind of thing. You read about it and you don't think it's true, but it actually was true. And that he did not pay attention to us at all. He didn't know our names. He didn't care. He didn't hang with us. He didn't drive with us. He didn't do anything. He'd just walk on the stage, plug his guitar in, do his thing, scowl at us when we didn't play it the way he wanted, and then got off stage. We never hung out with him, not once, in months.
Wow. That's strange, isn't it? That band, what was it called, and how did that get together?
Yeah, the band, you're going to love this, Tony. We called ourselves the Canadians. How about that? Can you imagine the guys in suits trying to make it with Pink Floyd and Jimi Hendrix, and it was the time of, you know, all that going on in Carnaby Street and drugs and LSD and Sgt. Pepper. And here we come, we call ourselves the Canadians. Do you think we stood a chance? Not a chance. I went back to Canada, put the band Skylark together with my then wife, BJ, put the band Skylark together, and we headed down to Los Angeles, and through her contacts, we got a record deal with Capitol Records, and lo and behold, we put out a song, and it became a massive hit. A song
Wildflower.
called Let Her Cry, for She's a Lady. Wildflower. And that was kind of a good feeling. But
Top
you know
10 in
what, Tony?
1973.
You know this to be true. The only thing harder than getting a hit record is what? Getting the second hit record.
Exactly.
And we didn't. We were a one-hit wonder.
But it must have been great. Can
Sorry?
we hear a little bit more of it, David?
Yeah. Let her cry, for she's a lady. Let her dream, for she's a child. Let the rain fall down upon her. She's a free and gentle flower, growing wild. I can't sing, but you get the idea.
You can sing. You can sing. So, Skylark disbanded, and then what happened?
I became a piano player for hire, and I got gigs for $5 an hour playing for singers, auditions, and this one singer auditioned for a show called The Rocky Horror Show, and she wanted me to go play for her. Have you heard of that show?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I went to the audition and played for her, and she didn't do that well and didn't get the gig, but the musical director came over to me and said, hey, where'd you come from? And it was kind of like right out of the movies. I said, well, I'm from Canada, but I'm here now. And I didn't mention that I'd had a hit record because I was now at the very, very bottom of the rung again. I'd gone all the way down to the $5 an hour piano player with a new baby, Amy, and he said, "Well, you know, how would you like to be in the band of the Rocky Horror Show at the Roxy Theater on Sunset Boulevard?" I was like, "Hell yeah!" So I got the gig, and the girl I was playing for didn't, and that was kind of the turning point for me. BJ also used to say, she said, "The microphone comes past you once. You either speak into it or it goes past, and it probably never comes again."
That's a lesson for everyone. I always say, don't try, you don't know. You're too shy, it's going to just walk right past you.
But and then you got to balance that though with bravado and ego, right? You can't be too pushy.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct. So how long were you in the Rocky Horror Show?
We did it for 1 year and 2 months, and it was great because the guys in the band, some of them were studio musicians, and so I got to sort of meet that whole crew. And every night there was stars in the audience. It was a club, but every night you'd see Michael Jackson in the audience. You'd see Elizabeth Taylor in the audience. You'd see Clint Eastwood. They all came to see a guy named Tim Curry, who was starring in the Rocky Horror Show.
Yeah.
And he was amazing. And they all came every night. It was like you just look out from the band. We were up high, and you just see all these stars. It was so much fun.
You know, how did you wanted to have a hit record, kind of slowly moved into composing and producing. Tell us that.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned the hit record because I did a smart thing. I think I left the hit record at the door.
Yeah.
So I didn't like wallow in the fact that, hey, look at me, I got a hit record and now I'm shit. You know, I put the hit record away in a drawer somewhere because that's pretty great to get a hit record, and you know, so you have more chance of getting killed by lightning than having a hit record, right? So it was pretty great, but I put it in a drawer, started all over, because I had my sights set on being a studio musician, being a producer, and an arranger. And in that Rocky Horror period, I met a drummer named Jim Keltner, very famous drummer, who played with the Beatles, he played with the Stones, he played with Eric Clapton, and he took a liking to me. And one day I was sitting in my apartment, and I get a call. Hello, this is George Harrison. I mean, I just about came apart because the Beatles were it for me. The Beatles were it.
Yeah.
They changed my life too. When She Loves You first came out, I was like, I was 13. I was like, wow, I want to do what that is. I want to make music like that. So he invited me down through Jim Keltner, this great drummer, and that started me off on meeting all the right studio musicians. It started me off as a studio musician, and I did 2 albums with George, and I did Rod Stewart and The Fifth Dimension, and I played on so many hit records, Dolly Parton and Glenn Campbell, and it was just an endless stream. But, and it's a big but, I saw the generation of studio musicians that had gone before me, because I was playing with them. They were my heroes.
Yeah.
And I saw them go from single scale to double scale to triple scale to double scale to single scale. And I thought, this is not going to be my fate. You know, have a good ride for 5-10 years, and then...
Can you explain to everyone what single scale, double scale, triple scale is?
I think at the time, a 3-hour session as a studio musician would be maybe $80.
Yeah.
And double scale would be 160. Triple scale would be 240, right? So you could make triple scale. You could make damn near $1,000 a day. Mm-hmm. At the height of my studio musician time, which was only 3 years long, before I decided I would give it all up and try to be a producer, I was making 6 figures a year, and this was in the 70s.
Wow.
So I was really, bought a house, and I mean, I was driving a Mercedes, and I was really golden, but I knew it was a dead end. So I made a conscious decision to quit being a studio musician, stop taking calls, and produce. And as you can imagine, that first year of producing records, people weren't clamoring to have me produce records for them. So I produced 3 albums in the first year or year and a half. I got paid $5,000 for each of them. So I went from $120,000 a year to $15,000 or $10,000 a year. But I was determined. And the first 3 albums that I produced all stiffed. All 3 of them.
Who were they?
Well, exactly. They weren't famous people, thank God, because I wouldn't want that on my resume. But they were just artists that I liked that couldn't attract big time producers, so they came to me. One album was Bill Champlin, who I ended up putting him in the group Chicago. Yeah. But they all stiffed, And I was just about ready to give up. I was thought, wow, I thought I was going to be good at this, but I think I suck at this. My problem was I was too much of a musician, and I wasn't listening and paying attention to the songs and the lyrics. I was too busy trying to get like the hot track with the hot drummer, and you can relate to this, right? People don't care about that. They care about songs, and I didn't know that. And I was just about ready to give up, but by now I was writing good songs, and then Earth, Wind, and Fire came into my life, then Alice Cooper, then Cheryl Lynn, then the group Chicago, and then the ball was just rolling faster than I could grab it.
Can you explain to people out there what a producer does? Why is he so important to the record, right?
Well, I can tell you that I'm sure you would agree with this. If you ever decided to make a record, and you can sing, you can play a little guitar, and you love music, you probably wouldn't want to do it on your own. You'd probably want to have a producer. Why? Because you want somebody to bounce off of. And the buck has to stop with somebody. And an artist is too close to themselves. There's very few artists that can produce themselves. I can't think of any. Well, Prince. Prince produced himself and did a damn good job. But even the Beatles, they had George Martin. So it's somebody to bounce off of and to, be the final say, especially when it's a group. Like the group,
it's
Chicago.
It's the CEO of the record, right? It's the boss.
Yeah, and I was young and arrogant, and it was kind of my way or the highway. And if you watch the documentary, you'll see. I begged the director. I know I'm jumping ahead here, but I begged the director to. I said, "You got to interview the group Chicago because they hate my guts." And then when he got them on camera, they kind of caved. They were like sort of nice, well, he was kind of a bully in the studio. But I mean, we went from selling 100,000 to selling 7 million, so it kind of all worked out great. But in fairness, speaking of Chicago, I took them down my road, not their road, and I understand why they were pissed off, even though we had huge success.
Exactly, what do you have to do in the studio to be a producer? I mean, what does it take to be a great producer? And Chicago is going to be a big part of this show, and. How do you become a great producer? And
well,
what are the things that
the first thing that I say when I'm speaking at USC or UCLA or colleges on music or Berkeley, one of the first things I say actually is anybody that puts up their hand and asks me how they can become a record producer will never be one. Right? Yeah. How do I run an airline? How do I buy an airline and run an airline?
That's the same question. How do you become a millionaire?
Don't think you're never gonna.
For a start. Yeah.
If you have to ask, you're not going to do it. It's by osmosis. It's by just living and breathing it, right? But the producer basically is in charge of everything. If you have a strong artist, then you're going to have lots of fights. But my motto is no compromising. So if the singer wants the note to go up, and I want it to go down, it'll do one or the other, but it will not go into the middle because the compromise breeds mediocrity. So sometimes it's a constant battle. If the artist is weak, I get to make the record exactly the way I want. Case in point, I could give you many examples, but case in point, Josh Groban's first album.
Right.
He was not weak. That. He was 18.
Yeah.
He didn't know anything. He was just happy to be there. So I made the record that I wanted to make, and got him to sing every note that I wanted him to sing. Right. He would be the first to admit this. As his popularity grew and his star rose, by the third album he was like, "No, we're going to do it this way. I don't like that song. No, I don't. And again, I'm preaching to the choir with you because you've dealt with this your whole life, and you can't stifle that because once they get a taste of fame, and once they are in fact famous and they're making shitloads of money, they're not going to always listen to you, and nor should they. I mean, if I was producing Madonna. Which I have done, but if I had been her number one producer, I probably would still have her making disco records, which would have been awful.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's go through the producer. You find the songs, you agree the songs, you find the musicians, you get them to sing the way you want them to sing. That's the perfect scenario. Yeah,
and yes, picking the songs is, as I found out, very more important than I thought it was, and hiring the right musicians. And being a psychologist and a psychiatrist and a mom and a dad and a brother and a sister, and you've got to get a great vocal, like whatever it takes to get a great vocal. That's your mission. and to make the artist be comfortable, and to, this is going to sound funny, but to placate them.
Yeah.
Because when they come with ideas that you don't like, you can't just go, that sucks. You got to go, okay, well, let's try that. Knowing all the time that you hate her idea or his idea. And then sometimes they have great ideas.
And give me an idea that you hated. Just, it doesn't have to be
An idea of an idea.
No, an idea of an artist coming to you and saying, I want to do this, and you're like, oh, no, that sucks. And
well, there was I go back to Chicago again, although I could use plenty of examples, but there was a song that I didn't write called Hard Habit to Break, which ended up going to number one for Chicago. They really, really hated the song and did not want to do it. And I said, we just had a standoff. I said, you're going to do this song. You're going to do this song. I made a demo and sang all the parts myself to show them what a great song it was. They still didn't believe me, but I made them do it, and it became a huge hit.
There you go. So you had your 3 records. That didn't happen. Then what happened? Chicago came along?
Well, Earth, Wind, and Fire first. With my friends Bill Champlin and Jay Graydon, we wrote the song, Oh, and After the Love Is Gone. Played it for Maurice White through a friend of mine who got me to Maurice White.
Right.
And he became a great mentor to me, the leader of Earth, Wind, and Fire. And he said, I love that song. We're going to record it. And I went, really, when? And he went, tonight. And it was just one of the great, great moments for me. And that led to a 5 or 10 year relationship with him where I did quite a few albums with him, and including that whole album, the I Am album.
Yeah.
I co-wrote with Maurice most of the songs on that record. It had September on it and Boogie Wonderland and After the Love Is Gone. It was a power-packed album, and it was just, I was just in the big time. I felt like I was in the big time.
Yeah. So that was the first song with Earth and Wind Fire, and then you developed this relationship with Earth and Wind. What was it like working with the guys? They just looked really nice guys. And of course, I was lucky enough, thanks to you, that Philip Bailey played in our wedding.
Yes, he did.
In the south of France, which unfortunately you couldn't make it that day because you had a concert. But that was a special night with Eric and the gang.
Oh yeah.
Stephen Bishop, all my kind of singers.
You've come across many Philip Baileys in your life that would all love to do favors for you in your time in the music business. But with every group, 9 members, there's always dissension and there's always problems. And Earth, Wind, and Fire was not exempt from some of that, But Maurice White was the boss. And the horn players might have complained a little. And I think shortly after the I Am album, a couple of the guys quit or were fired. Good musicians. So that group became fractured. Because you just can't. God, I mean, Chicago, they used to have a meeting about having a meeting.
You were writing a song, like the songs you've just played, and when you reeled out the I Am songs, I mean, those are just my hair stands, to be honest. That was one hell of an album.
Yeah.
Just for the layman out there, which I would consider myself one in this aspect, how do you write a song? How do you sit down and come out with those amazing tunes?
Well, first of all, I've had co-writers for most of my songs, so we have to give a lot of credit to them too. But in the case of After the Love Is Gone specifically, I was in Barry Gordy's office, the guy who founded Motown.
Yeah.
And I was playing him, actually the first album I produced, one of the stiffs. And he listened to a lot of it. He gave me a lot of time, and he said, I don't really hear any great songs here. And I lied to him. And I swear to God, this is true. I lied to him. I said, no, Mr. Gordy, wait, I have other songs. And he went, like what? And I went, well, and I walked over to the piano, and as God is my witness, I sat down and after the love is gone, the chorus fell out in real time through me. I'd never thought about that before. It just came out.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, whoa, where'd that come from? Because it's kind of an undeniable song. And then I hooked up with Bill Champlin and Jay Graydon to finish it, the verses and the lyrics and all the rest of the lyrics. But it was a gift from God. So, Tony, I have a question for you. Given the choice, right this second, if you could be the chairman of Universal Music worldwide, like our friend Lucien is, or be the chairman of AirAsia? Don't be politically correct. Just answer truthfully. What would you choose?
You know the answer. I'll take
No,
Lucian's,
I know you have such a love of music that it would be.
I'll take Lucian's job in a second.
You would.
You'd
be good at it too, by the way.
I love what I build, and I got a lot more to do in AirAsia, but you can't. Music is something else, right? And to meet you guys, to just listen to after the love is gone, 3 bars of it. It's amazing because you can build, you can create businesses, but then meeting someone and making them a star and listening to a great song and seeing the joy music brings. I see joy because we've allowed people to fly everywhere, right? We came out with this Now Everyone Can Fly. And I do my best to bring music to the airline as much as possible.
I know you do.
We set up a small little record company, but I would be lying. If I could be Lucian, I'd take it in.
But the interesting thing, one of the many interesting things about you, Tony, is that you will find a way, and are finding a way through AirAsia, to diversify and get right back into music. You've got your food business going. You got the delivery service going. You got music with Red Records. You got, you're going to end up doing it all. I mean, you're unstoppable.
Well, we're going to give it a try. That's for sure. The similarities of the two of us is that we love a challenge and we never give up. So tell us the Chicago story. That's a big story.
So they played me their 13 songs. I was so excited. It's the Chicago in a room, and I'm sitting in the center, and there's Jimmy Pankow on trombone, and there's Peter Cetera, and there's Robert Lamb, and this is like too much. And the songs were awful. I mean awful. And at the end of it, they're like, so what do you think? And I was making notes. I said, well, guys, honestly, I can't produce an album with these songs. If I'm going to produce you, we're going to start all over again, and I'm going to go to all your houses, and I'm going to co-write with you, and we're going to write 13 new songs because these songs aren't good enough. You've forgotten the greatness of Chicago. You've forgotten how great you were. But it just so happened that Peter Cetera and I hit it off. And so I ended up being the piano player and the bass player because Peter didn't want to play bass anymore, so I played keyboard bass, and I was the arranger and the co-writer and the producer. So I ended up really being a big part of the group, and Peter and I really hit it off, and the rest of the group didn't like that too much.
Didn't like the closeness you two had.
Yeah,
Pre-David Foster, what was their biggest song, do you think?
Saturday in the Park. How about, if you leave me now, you take away the biggest part of me. Woo. I can't sing it, but they had so many hits. 25 or 6 to 4.
Yeah.
Beginnings. Trombones. I knew every lick. I was such a fan. I was the perfect person to produce them.
Mariana put a note here, which I found a bit funny. You were the Yoko Ono of Chicago.
I'd like to think I was the George Martin of Chicago, not the Yoko Ono, but that's okay.
And look, just tell everyone just quickly, because I've seen it in your house. How many Grammys have you got?
Coin say, I'm not sure how many I have 16, and I've lost 33 times. I know all the numbers.
There you go. Now, you told me the one that really pissed you off that you thought you should have won. Tell us about that.
Yeah, no. I think you're thinking about the Oscars. I've lost all 3 times at the Oscars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I lost for a song called The Prayer with Andrea Bocelli and Celine Dion. When that kind of hurt, I lost to Whitney on that. I lost with Whitney on The Bodyguard because we were nominated for 2 songs in The Bodyguard, and I think they canceled each other out. So that one I sort of understood. But the one that really hurt me was that Peter Cetera and I wrote a song called The Glory of Love.
Yeah.
Can
you play that?
I am a man who would fight for your honor. I'll be the hero you're dreaming of. So we lost to Berlin, Take My Breath Away. Hate that song now. It actually was a good song. But it's okay. I might get another chance.
There you go. Do you think music lasted longer in the older days. Do you know, you play September now. You play After the Love. You play the Chicago songs, and they're just timeless, right? When you think of music today, do you think in 20 years' time people are going to...
I think you're wrong. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine that kids 30 years from now are going to put their arms around each other to a Drake song, the telephone song, and go, oh, that's our song. It's hard to imagine that, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
They're not going to put their arms around, a Chicago song is playing, or while a Bobby Brown song is playing. They're going to put their arms around each other while a Drake song is playing, or a Bieber song, or a Rihanna song, or an Ed Sheeran song. It's the way of the world, man. And because we're older now, we think that our shit is better than theirs, but it's not. There's plenty of great music out there, right? It's centered around simpler chord patterns. It's not, the music isn't as complex as it was.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, music in the 60s was all dominated around 4 chords too. A 1,000 hits with that chord progression.
Yeah.
Right? So now we're in a different 4 chords, but it's working. And kids today that are 16 and 17, when they turn 40 and 50, they're going to reminisce about their stuff. They're not going to reminisce about our stuff.
That's true. That is true.
I think.
But I don't know. I feel songs lasted longer in our era. I mean, they're great songs. Drake's amazing, and Chris Brown and all these guys are making some incredible stuff.
Yeah, Bieber's making some great music too.
He's special. He is. He really is. He really is special. Do you think producer, artists? I mean, you know them all, right? Can they become friends?
You certainly can, and I can give you plenty of examples of people in my life that became and still are social friends. And Michael Bublé being maybe at the top of that list. I mean, he called me yesterday. He checks in regular. He saw my wife on American Idol last week and called me to say, man, your wife was amazing. And we FaceTime truly on a regular basis. Josh, not quite so much Josh Groban, but plenty of socializing there. Bocelli, we're really good friends. Natalie Cole and I were really good friends. Donna Summer and I were really good friends. So, yeah, it is possible.
David, you set up your own record company. That's when I got to know you. Tell us about that.
143 Records. And in retrospect, like everything else, Tony,
did you always want to do that? Did you always want to own your own? Yeah.
I did, but if you had been a little more forward with me and giving me a little better advice, I probably wouldn't have sold it. I had Josh Groban, Michael Bublé, the Corrs. Remember the Corrs? They sold 25 million records.
We did that together. I broke it in Asia first.
Yes, we did. Just those 3 artists alone would be a couple of $100 million record company right now.
Yeah.
But my business savvy is not as good as my musical savvy, and it's okay because God doesn't give with both hands.
Yeah, when I met you, you had this wonderful house in Malibu. You had your studio. You had, if I remember right, a train that could take you up to the top of the house. Am I right?
Yeah.
Do I remember that correctly?
You're right. Yeah, it was a 22-acre house, and had a 5-acre lawn, and we'd land helicopters on there, and I had 2 studios, and it was quite a sight.
Yeah. 143, you're 100%. Who knows where it would have gone? Because you had actually incredible success rate.
But we were losing money, strangely, in the beginning. And that's when Warner Brothers stepped in and said, the contract says if you lose money, we get to buy you. And so they did.
Yeah. Oh, well.
But
never
that's
mind.
Okay.
How long was that? How long was 143 now?
How old is it?
How long did you run 143?
I'm thinking it was mid-90s to mid-2000, like 95 to 2005, maybe something like that. Yeah. 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I know it still says on Bublé's and Josh's record, it still says 143 Records.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I know. So
Yeah.
Bublé, how did you find Bublé and Josh?
Found him at a wedding. It's just one of those great stories, like he was the wedding singer. He truly was the wedding singer.
Oh, really? He was the wedding singer?
He was the wedding singer. He comes bouncing.
He was Adam
on the
Sandler.
stage. Yeah, and he was singing. When the shark bites, he's snapping his fingers. And he was like, I was like, oh my God, it's the same feeling I had when I first saw Celine.
Right.
I was like, I got to have this kid. Now, he tells a different version of the story, and somewhere between our two stories is the truth. But his story is not true, and mine probably isn't either. But I recall saying to him, you're coming back home to L.A. with me tonight, and I'm going to move you into my guest house. Here's $5,000 to pay your bills, because he had no money, and we're going to stay here until you make an album. That's my side of the story. His side, you'll have to ask him. It's a little bit different, but nevertheless, we happily reminisce on it all the time.
You've been married 5 times. What's that like? That's what the notes were put there. I couldn't count the 5 actually.
Well, it means that I don't have that big sprawling house in Malibu anymore. That's what it means.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Look, I won't take the time now because it's a little bit private, but I can explain them all in a way that's at least rational for my head. Because if I can't rationalize it, I would make myself crazy, So for various reasons, that has led me to Catherine, and this is where I'll spend the rest of my life.
There you go.
And I'm not sure I ever said that before. I don't think I did.
Oh, cool. Exclusive on my show. Well, she's kind of special. She
really is.
I mean, she really is. And who would think? I sent her a note the other day, and it's hard to imagine she had a baby. She's just...
Oh, did you DM her?
Right back. Yeah, I DM'd her, yeah.
Did she answer you back?
Yeah, she did.
Oh, good.
Good. She was. She looks fantastic. And how is having your first son?
It's going incredible because she's such a great and natural mom. I get to sleep all night, and I get the best of the baby. And he happens to be a really good baby, and so we're just as happy as we can be.
You're very proud to be Canadian.
Yeah.
And you don't.
Would you not say that you? Would you not say that you carry the Malaysian flag wherever you go?
Oh, 100%. All the artists you worked with. Man, that's a stupid question, but it has to be asked. Who did you enjoy working with the most?
The answer I always used to give was Alice Cooper, because Alice Cooper was this strange, dichotomous character who I learned a lot from because I wasn't really a rock and roller. But he would get up in the morning, make breakfast for his kids, take them to school, kiss his wife goodbye, go play a round of golf. He's was a scratch golfer. Then he'd come to the studio, work really, really hard, dedicated, and then at night he'd go do an arena show and cut chickens' heads off on stage because he was that ghoulish, with all the makeup and all that.
Yeah, correct.
And then the next morning he'd do it all over again. And I just thought what a dichotomous character, and he was and is such a lovely person. And I get to see him when I do a Muhammad Ali event in Phoenix, and he comes, and once in a while he'll jump up on stage. And so he always held the record for being the nicest guy and the most fun that I ever had in the studio. And that was kind of broken by Seal. Seal broke the record, broke Alice's record when I did the Seal Soul album, which was super successful, and we had the best time, and I just loved working with that unique voice of Seal's. He doesn't have the money notes like Celine and Whitney, so I had to wrap my head around a different process, but it was just as great a process, and I put him in the same category as those singers, and he was so much fun. So for now, he holds the record.
You've never been afraid to travel, meet different people. I've taken you everywhere, and you're just so decent, down to earth. You love people. You come out to Malaysia, in Indonesia. Everyone loves you, right? You do this amazing show.
Most everyone. Richard Marx doesn't love me, but that's another story.
Well, that's his loss.
Honestly, though, Tony, and I would say the same right back to you, because you're the same way. It doesn't take that much more effort to be nice than to not be nice.
Yeah, 100%. I always say to my cabin crew, it doesn't cost anything to smile. Low cost doesn't mean low quality. And that's why we won best low-cost airline 11 times in a row, because we're just nice.
I was there in Paris once when you picked up the award.
You accepted the award. You accepted it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot, yeah.
It was awesome.
Famous Brazilian footballer.
I have to say that I'm proud to be your friend, but I'm really proud from close up to know what you've accomplished, to see what you've accomplished. And, you had your Apprentice and your television run, and you had this great career in the music business where you were loved by everybody. Everybody wanted to be next to you.
Thank you, my brother. I miss you a lot, actually. Just, spending time with David Foster in LA is it's there's just not enough hours in the day. We're meeting people I've never met.
Well, my life has never gone where I thought it would go. Time and time again, it's gone to a different place. But there's not much I would redo.
You know, I love that statement. You know, I'll always say, if I'm hit by a bus tomorrow, and there are many people who'd like to drive that bus, I've lived a great life. Lots of failures, lots of things, but I've always said you live life as though it's the last day of your life. And the mistakes you've made, that's part of life. That makes you the better person or appreciate things more. So I 100% echo what you believe, what you just said. What do you want the world to remember David Foster?
Well, I always said that on my tombstone, I'd like to have simply this: he did his best.
Nice.
I think
Nice.
that's appropriate.
That's
you know,
nice.
I mean, I can't imagine that my songs are going to live on. I want my son to be a race car driver, but that's 15 years from now. But I realize that I could do that. If I want him to be a race car driver, I can give him every opportunity to be a race car driver.
There we go. I'm having owned a Formula One team. Think hard.
Yeah, I've been watching that. Have you been watching on Netflix the Formula One?
I haven't, but I heard it's fantastic and amazing.
It's
and maybe that's some painful memories for me there, and expensive
Yes.
memories.
I'll bet. What was the team that you were involved in?
Lotus and then Caterham, and
yeah.
I mean, look again. I lost a lot of money. It was we didn't win anything, but I did it. You know, I sat in the grid with Ferrari and Williams and McLaren and
Mercedes.
And Mercedes, right? So it was a wonderful thing to do. I wouldn't do it again. But if your son's going to become a race driver, Uncle Tony's there to help him. Tell us about your foundation, which you started in 1986. That says a lot about you, because that's a long time ago for you to start giving back. And I know how passionate you are about it. And I want people to know the other side of David Foster.
Yeah. Well, it is important to me, and there's no bad charities. There's 1,000 great ones, and you don't know when you're going to get struck by being moved so much that you want to plunge in. And I was moved with an incident that happened, and we help basically the families of children that need organ transplants, and we fill all those holes of basically what the social workers have said about us, that we are the one bright spot in a parent's worst day ever. So they get told that their son or daughter needs a heart transplant or a lung transplant or a kidney or a liver. And but then they say, but there is the David Foster Foundation, and all your expenses will be taken care of. All you have to do is concentrate on your sick child. And the feedback we get, as you can imagine, is extraordinary. But I want to say also that I'm not that guy that just lends his name. I mean, I was on a 1-hour call tonight. We have a Zoom call tomorrow with some of our donors. We have a Zoom calls every Thursday with our donors. We're keeping the ball rolling. We had a goal of $30 million in the bank as an endowment, and we surpassed that. Now our new goal is $50 million in the bank, $50 million as an endowment, which will ensure that this foundation will go on long after I'm gone, which is great. But it's been hard work. I've done probably 300 concerts for my foundation, but it's good work, and it always feels better to give than to take.
David, any artist you would have loved to have worked with, but just haven't had the chance to do it?
Well, I've always said Sting, and I believe you know him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we know each other, but he's never asked me to work with him. He just doesn't need me, quite honestly. But I just love his whole vibe. But also Stevie Wonder was on that list. And as you may know, I did an album with Stevie. And it's never come out and probably never will come out. So
he's one hell of a legend. And one producer that you never worked with.
Well, I would have loved to. I spent time with George Martin, but I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in those sessions. I mean,
they've got this Beatles movie coming out, right? Have you seen it?
Yes, Brian Grazer's producing it, I think, right?
Yeah.
I have not seen it.
Okay.
I saw the trailer. It's amazing.
Yeah. And last question. What's on your playlist right now?
Well, I don't have Spotify, and I don't have a playlist. Sorry to say, and I don't listen to music, and not for any reason other than back in the day I didn't listen to much music because I thought it got in the way of what I was trying to do,
Right.
and I guess that pattern just sort of stuck. So, Kat and I once in a while will go around the piano. We'll go on YouTube. We'll find a song that we like, and we'll learn it and we'll sing it. But I have no playlist. I have no Spotify. I have no iPod. I have nothing in my phone except my solo album and my Betty Boop stuff, my theater stuff that I'm working on.
Yeah.
No playlist.
Is Betty Boo still on? Is that?
Yeah, I had a big 2-hour Zoom today about it.
Oh, cool. I was in your flat when you were composing. For that.
It's the ongoing project.
That would be special. That'd be special. Yeah. Make sure I'm there on the opening night. But I miss you even more now.
Likewise.
He's the nicest person, the most down to earth, and a true friend. David, it's been an honor. Thank you for giving me so much time. And go kill some more hits and get that Oscar and get that Broadway out. And love to Catherine. You two are made for each other.
I'll play myself out. Thank you, Tony. Love you, brother.
Good night.
Love you.
Bye.